After the Civil War in America, the South was left in shambles. The war strategies of the North did exactly what it was designed to do: destabilize the Southern economic infrastructure and disrupt the normal social structure of whites being in direct control of black enslaved labor. So enters a system whereby persons under the jurisdiction of a state can be brought to slave status using a loophole in the 13th Amendment via criminalization. Basically, if you are convicted of a crime, your punishment can be slavery. Oh, but not just that good old-fashioned American chattel slavery. Out with the old, in with the new. This was slavery with a twist. Slavery rental, convict leasing. But even more important than knowing the history of convict leasing is understanding the tactics used to create the continuation of slavery. Here's a short list of what was made criminal for persons of color under the statutes in the great state of South Carolina. A colored man leaving his wife. A colored woman leaving her husband. A person of color pursuing or practicing the trade of artisan, mechanic, or shopkeeper, or any other trade or business for his own benefit. A person of color doing business on equal terms with a white person. A person of color working for a white person and deemed by the white employer to not have enough skills and experience for the position. A black person being unemployed. The statute reads that vagrancy and idleness are public grievances and must be punished as crimes. Please note that South Carolina was not the only state with black codes. In the southern states in general, things such as spitting, drinking alcohol in public, being drunk in public, loitering, could result in the African Americans being enslaved for vagrancy. Instead of black labor going to the rebuilding of our civilization, it was recaptured by way of new laws and policies and used to undergird the growth of their economy. With the help of their judicial system, all of these states were direct practitioners and beneficiaries of this new slave system. And the northern states were not innocent in this affair. Not only did they have black inmates laboring as slaves, but the North's financial institutions backed the enslaving industrialists and plantations in the South. In essence, convict leasing, along with peonage or debt slavery, served as the post-13th Amendment guide for enslaving African Americans. And this remained the case with the quiet complicity of the federal government until after December 12, 1941, when Circular 3591 was issued.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. My brothers and sisters, we as a collective can no longer afford to not be on the same page. I mean, we never could. It has always been a quote-unquote race war going on against us for about like 400 some years. And you know, at some point in our community, we're going to have to start reading rocket science books or something to wake up and realize what is going on around us, the situation that we are in. Instead, we are still shocked and surprised and crying and asking and begging and pleading and marching and protesting for fair treatment of our people. But at some point, if we ever want to change the situation, we would have to realize that the power is in our own hands. Only we can change our own situation. And right now, in 2017, we have to realize that in this time we're living in, there is a growing population of white people who are getting tired of holding their tongue, quote unquote, because what you do is racist. And they come up with all kind of excuses or reasons or explanations or quote-unquote statistics about how black people are just more inherently prone to violence. That's why they're over-policed. The police do their job. The police don't harass them. Alright, well, let's see how true that is in this situation. But I'm sure it'll be people who make up excuses for everything that happens.
What was it that we did wrong, officer?
You crossed. Take your camera and point it across there at the red hand. That is a crosswalk. One, you weren't in the crosswalk. Two, there was a red sign. You both crossed. Oh, my bad. That's a $65 ticket apiece. Get to my car. You are being legally detained. If you don't, you are disobeying. I'm going to put you in jail.
No, that's
so go to my car.
That's against the law right there. You gotta see. Look.
You look at me. If you don't walk to that car, I'm putting you in jail.
By me crossing the street, officer. That's.
Can I just get a warning so I'm just going
to get to my car. You're going to walk to my car. I'm about to put you in jail.
For what?
Disobeying a direct order.
That's not disobeying a direct order.
Resisting without.
That's not the resisting.
Walk to my car.
That is not resisting, officer. That is not resisting.
Listen to me. I am doing you a favor. I'm not telling you again. You got your ID on you?
No, I don't.
What's your name?
Devonte Shipman.
All right, so there's another infraction. In the state of Florida, you have to have an ID card on you identifying who you are. I can detain you up to 7 hours until I can figure out who you are.
Not if I've done anything. Not if I've done anything illegal, officer. No, sir. You cannot.
Did do something illegal. You crossed the crosswalk.
Yeah, that's I crossed the crosswalk.
Against a red hand. I was sitting right there when you did it.
Wasn't paying no attention. That's not that. You act like I really just committed a serious crime that's worth this time right now.
It is worth the time.
You're just trying to look for something. You're just trying to get you pulled up or whatever the case may be. I understand that you're trying to get money. You got to do your job. But
I don't get money for writing tickets. There was 2 cars that were coming through the intersection that had to slow down. They had the right of way, not you.
No, as a pedestrian, you do have the right of way.
You do not.
Yes, you do. As a pedestrian.
What's your name?
Devonte Shipman.
All right, I'm gonna tell you, Devonte, right now, I have given you the last warning.
Okay.
How do you spell your first name?
D-E-V-O-N-T-E.
Last name?
Shipman. S-H-I-P-M-A-N. Date of birth? January 12th, 1996. Yeah. Yeah. They got 3 cop cars, all because we crossed the motherfucking street, bro. We crossed the street. That's all we did was cross the motherfucking street.
So yeah, of course, the jaywalking infractions are getting out of hand these days, and we need the police to be doing something about this. Now, the problem is, every time we come into this situation, we are faced with another, well, he could have been resisting. You shouldn't be resisting. By exercising your constitutional rights, just go look up them white people with the exercise your right videos when they're getting pulled over or when they go mess with the cops and see the treatment they get.
Hi there, how are you? Can I help you with anything?
You came to me.
Right, we got an incident over here and I saw you driving across the lot. I was seeing if you were related to that incident.
Do I look like I'm related?
I have no idea, sir. You have your ID I can see?
Well, what crime do you suspect me of committing?
A burglary?
You suspect me of committing a burglary?
We have a burglar over here and you're leaving the lot.
No, I think that you're pulling strings. I think you're stretching.
Okay. Can I have your name, please?
No, you can't.
Okay.
Now they're just trying to walk down the street and exercise their rights. They're not even bothering the cops. The cops are bothering them. But that is constituted as resisting arrest. Now see, what they have done is they have taken this Black Lives Matter movement and said, well, all lives matter. And they've unified under that. And then they say, well, hey, blue lives definitely matter. So let's pass a law, a Blue Lives Matter law, that if you resist arrest, that is a felony crime, a hate crime even. So now they can pull up on your ass for jaywalking or whatever offense they may say you've done. Say you're resisting, and now it's a felony hate crime. You're a felon. And the kid brought up a good point. He said, well, I understand you're trying to fill your quota or whatever. And isn't that a odd thing that the police have quotas that they have to fill? They have to write a certain amount of tickets. And they can deny the whole quota thing, but we know they have quotas. Now, if you take a step back and look at it on a larger scale, the prison systems also have quotas. How do people not see something wrong with the prison industrial complex? Because we are under this illusion that we are supposed to be treated as fair citizens, but we can obviously see that is certain amendments that don't apply to us. And right now, we can literally be charged for a hate crime, for a traffic infraction. For jaywalking, you can end up with a hate felony crime. Now, if you think about it, the prison system is a billion-dollar industry, a privately owned business. Now, this private business gets taxpayers' money to lock people up. They don't get paid if they don't have heads in the prison cells. So now they have to fill the prisons. And this is killing two birds with one stone. You're getting majority black people off the street, because if you look at the prison population, it's majority black people. And majority of them is for non-violent drug offenses. And half of those non-violent drug offenses are for marijuana. Now we can make money all while locking these quote-unquote thugs up. And they didn't justify that with saying, well, hey, you're just inherently violent, despite the blatant evidence on the contrary. Now, the problem was most of our people, of my brothers and sisters, we really don't read or understand what they're saying, because they, tell you, hey, well, we freed the slaves, the Emancipation Proclamation. But when you read the words of this bill, the 13th Amendment says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Even though we have a case where a black man was found innocent by a jury and the judge still sentenced him to jail for violating his parole for a crime he did not commit. And, we love to say, well, slavery was abolished in 1865. Well, let's look up the word except. Except, not including, other than. Conjunction, used before a statement that forms an exception to one just made. Verb, specify as not included in a category or group. Exclude, meaning if you are convicted of a crime, you are legally still a fucking slave. Now, when they made this 13th Amendment, they also didn't ask, well, who gets to make the rules? Who are the jury? Who are going to be the judges? Is it going to be a fair court system? Because it seems to be an awful lot of my brothers being locked up, black men, and a rising number of black women, by the way. And the thing about these industrial prisons is they can lease the convicts over to other people to do work. You know, that's been happening throughout history. You know, just look up something called peonage, where they put a person in debt and lock them up for the debt, and every day they're locked up, they charge you money because you're locked up. So they're making money from you, off of your labor, and off of the taxpayer money. And today it is no different. Prisons still can contract out the prisoners to do labor and pay them like 25 cents a day, while they're making millions off of them on top of the millions they're paid anyway. And especially as black people, if we want to boycott anything, we can at least start here. We can look at all of these companies that invest in the prison system, in the prison complex. And those are the companies we can start boycotting. You know, because if a company invest in the prison system, they probably get cheap labor from the prison system. Shit, they might be the same people who are the owners of both corporations for all we know, because we never see the franchise owner, in the words of KRS-One. But we as black people have to realize what we are up against. They make money off of our oppression, off of their dominance. They control their natural resources. They control our resources that we provide. And at some point, we got to take hold of that ourselves and stand together and put all of the differences about religion and all of that stuff, leave it at the door, because they don't give a fuck about what your religion is, about what your beliefs are. All they see is one thing. So we have to stand together as one thing and have each other's backs, or this whole thing will continue, because of course they want to continue to make money.
Yo, move, Tweet. Yo, Gally, get this, yo. Don't walk in the camera, bro. Move. Yo, he leaking and all that. I know.
Behind your back. Yo, stop resisting. Yo, get your hand behind your back. Stop resisting, bro. Hold on, motherfucker. Fuck out my lawn. Oh, bitch. I swear to God.
Yeah, the cops be tweaking, bro.
Hold on, bitch. I'm close up. Yo. Ow, bitch. Ow. Yo, bitch. That's some bitches, yo. Oh, yo, hold on. I'm trying to.
That shit crazy.
Get my phone. Get my phone. Yo, this you do. This on him. This you do. Hold on, motherfucker. Yo, hold on. Back up for me. Yeah, yo. Guys, do me a favor. Yo, this you do, yo. Record all you want. I don't care. Yo. What's your dad? What's your dad? Yo. Stay over there. What's your name? Get my phone, yo. Yo, what's your number? Man, fuck you. Fuck out of here. You don't punch my face. Yo, you got pictures? Man, yo. You know my brother? I'm gonna tell me these black bitches on my face. Fuck both of y'all. Suck my fucking. Yo, get the beat up. Yo, this nigga put my face, yo. This man put my fucking face. Bitch, yeah, fucking. I can't wait tomorrow.
They beat him up for no reason.
Bitch, oh my God, I can't wait, bitch. What's some bitch asses? Fuck y'all. Now punch my motherfucking face. I'm gonna fuck you. Bitch, you punch my fucking face. Fuck both of y'all. If you spray me, motherfucker, I'm telling my two ass, bitch. I don't give a fuck. Bitch, I ain't doing
Yo, Javon, move, bro.
Bitch, I ain't even doing shit. Fuck y'all. Get my y'all. Hey, yo. Man, I lose these bitches from. I ain't even do shit.
I don't know who that is.
Fuck y'all.
Fuck me, man.
Fuck y'all. I don't give a fuck, bitch.
A police officer is under official review tonight for an arrest he made last night. Part of the incident was caught here on camera, but officials say it does not tell the whole story. Action News reporter Vernon Odom live outside Millville Police right now with details for us. Good evening, Vernon.
Good evening, Monica. The violent arrest last night of a jaywalking suspect is sparking considerable controversy here tonight. The arrestee's mother is charging police brutality. The incident under scrutiny occurred last night before 7:30 in what police call a high crime section of Millville. Police say they confronted a man they saw jaywalking and say he refused to cooperate with their demands that he show them his ID. A struggle ensued, and eventually the suspect is wrestled to the sidewalk. And the rough stuff continued, according to the police account, with an officer seen on cell phone video repeatedly striking Barry Cottman in the head as they try to handcuff him.
The officers are saying that stop resisting, stop resisting. With the use of force continuum, officers have to use force as much as necessary to effect the arrest. Our officers are trained here never to believe use of force is routine.
It was no need for them to stomp him like that. He has been arrested before in the past, and he has never resisted Millville police. Never. So this is the first time. Nothing but him walking up the street. That's it. He was just walking up. I didn't see it. I didn't witness it. Just what was told to me and what I seen in the video.
Barry Cottman was locked up and charged with aggravated assault on a police officer and related charges, including jaywalking. He is a Millville resident, but he's now in the Cape May County Jail because of an outstanding child support warrant there. In the meantime, Millville police are examining closely the handling of this case by the police officer to see if his use of force was consistent with the department rules.
The officer did use force and as to effect this arrest. Obviously, it's going to be looked at. We have a professional standards unit. They're going to have to look and see if the use of force was justified in this case.
Barry Cottman, age 34, according to his relatives, is now in the South Jersey hospital being treated for injuries he received in that confrontation with police last night. Live in Millville, New Jersey, I'm Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action.
Oh no, no, no. Help him out, help him out.
While the rest of the U.S. may be struggling for work, there's currently a real boom of job offers for inmates in the country. Both state and some of the biggest private companies are now enjoying the fruits of a cheap and readily available workforce, with tens of millions of dollars spent by private prisons to keep their jails full. RT's Gaina Chichikan takes up the story.
In the U.S., the market for cheap labor is booming behind bars. In the last 15 years, partnership between prisons and private manufacturers has increased significantly. They're becoming America's very own Chinese-style manufacturing line behind prison walls. Prisons, in fact, advertise themselves as such, as an alternative to outsourcing cheap labor to China or elsewhere. On the web, we came across this pitch that prisons prepared to persuade private sector companies to come and do business with them. Take a look.
There is not enough folks that will do this type of work in this country. So therefore, we're bringing back this industry that historically has been going out of this country, and we're putting it, inside the walls. And it's absolutely a perfect idea. I have a workforce that does not have car problems or babysitting problems, etc. They're always here and they're always willing to come to work.
Bring your business to our labor.
A wide variety of industries take advantage of prison labor. Among many other things, prisoners make clothing, textiles, electronics, furniture, and even solar panels.
Just as we're trying to get China to stop with their prison labor, ours is at the same time increasing.
Hundreds of companies have used prison labor directly or through subcontractors, including Microsoft, Boeing, Starbucks, Victoria's Secret, and others.
They qualify for federal tax breaks. They can get recompensated up to 40% of the wages that they pay to these inmates. We as taxpayers, we have to house, feed, and provide medical care and everything for all of these inmates. We do this as taxpayers. It comes out of the tax pools. And that keeps the actual prison workforce healthy and in shape to go out and perform these jobs for these private companies.
Hard-working and reliable. Inmates show up for work every day voluntarily.
Work in prison is mandatory, and the choice many inmates have is whether to work for a government-run prison industry for less than $1 an hour or a private one for a minimum wage of around $6. Unicor is a government-owned corporation that uses prison labor to produce all kinds of goods, mainly for other government agencies. 175 different types of products and services. You see the variety listed on their website. They too partner up with private firms now. Last year, Unicor's revenue reached $900 million. As far as private prisons are concerned, two of the country's biggest prison corporations made $3.3 billion last year alone.
Private prisons are traded on the New York Stock Exchange. They are for-profit companies, and the savings that they reap from using inmate labor go to their bottom line. It's money they otherwise don't have to spend in order to keep a facility running.
Large prison populations and harsh sentences result in greater profits. America's three major private prison companies spend around $45 million over the past 10 years on lobbying state and federal governments for supporting immigrant detention, mandatory minimum sentences, 3 strikes laws, and other legislative measures that contribute to the growth of America's gigantic prison population. The U.S. now holds more people behind bars than any other nation, more than 2 million. That's 1/4 of all prisoners in the world. From a cost-effectiveness point of view, the $45 million that private prisons have reportedly spent over the past decade lobbying to keep prisons full is peanuts compared to the billions that they make every year. One can argue about the many causes and effects of America's skyrocketing incarceration rate, but since prisons became a for-profit industry in the U.S. 30 years ago, the number of prisoners has gone up dramatically. Not to say that it was the only cause behind the spike, but many argue it was part of it. And now with the cheap labor market expanding behind American bars, one is wondering whether the justice system in the U.S. is adopting market values. In Washington, I'm Ganesh Shakan.